Ooh. You gotta. Oh!
This is not the music.
Oh, come on, man. That's cool.
Welcome to Big Fish Stories, the podcast dedicated to telling the real outdoor stories of adventure, hunting, and fishing. For the outdoors men and women who get lost in the stories around the campfire, this is the place for you. My name is Tyler Hendricks, located in the great state of Idaho, and today I have with me my good buddy, Levi Higgs. Self-clap.
One of the first of many times that I will be on this podcast, Mr. Hendricks. Thank you, and you're welcome to all of you listeners and or viewers.
Oh, man, this is how it's going to be right off the bat. This is going to be over the top.
This is a podcast. It's got to be fun. It's got to be interesting, and that's why I'm here.
Awesome.
Okay? Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. And thanks for having me, man.
Appreciate it. No problem. How long have you lived in Idaho, and when did you start doing any sort of outdoor stuff?
That's a good question. I mean, my wife and I moved to Idaho 4.5 years ago, relocating from Redding, California. I grew up fishing. My father is an avid fisherman. He is just an exceptional fly fisherman. And so I grew up fishing from the time I was little, but I never really got into fly fishing, probably because my patience level isn't that high.
I agree. I cannot... I get that there's art behind it, Absolutely. And I get that that's why people are out there. Yeah. But I don't think they're out there to actually catch fish.
That's where I disagree because
your dad's amazing. Your dad is amazing. He's mastered it. Yeah. But everyone else I go with who thinks they can fly fish and they've maybe done it for 5 years, you have to do it for like 20 years before you catch a fish. That's what I think.
Well, he's been doing it since he was a kid. So my grandfather, his father, started him fly fishing when I think he was like 5 or 6, like tying his own flies.
Right.
So, and my father's now 68.
Right.
So he's been doing it literally his entire life.
Right.
And so he's like, I'll be like, hey, how was it? He's like, it was good. I caught like 30 something. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Because with that, when I go fishing with you, some days there's good days.
Right.
Some days there's bad days.
And we're using anything.
Yeah, literally. We're chucking gear from the boat.
I will put a hot dog on a hook to catch a good fish. I don't care.
Absolutely. But needless to say, his love for fly fishing did not translate to me, honestly. And so I was always hiking and things like that. But then I didn't really enter into the outdoorsman culture until I moved here and met you. And you're a psychopath. And I was like, the only way I can hang out with him is to do the things that he loves. But it worked out great because I have grown to love them. Again, not as much as you, because you're a psychopath. But
how long ago is this?
4.5.
4.5. Okay.
The first time we ever did anything outside of just hang out at a house, I went fishing with you and your wife.
Oh, okay.
And I caught nothing.
Oh yeah. Did your wife go?
No. It was just us three.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just us
funny.
three. Yeah.
I'll never forget when it must have been the second time I took you because Chelsea was with us. Chelsea's his wife.
Yeah.
She was with us and we had all tied on a certain color of tube that were catching the smallmouth and you were refusing to use that tube and you caught nothing.
I didn't want to. Yeah, I caught nothing. We were out there for 3 hours.
You're like, no, what I have is gonna work.
Yeah, but it didn't work because I was like, no, I'm a Higgs. My dad's a good fisherman. I will inherit that just genetically, but it's not the case.
Right.
Yeah.
So before fishing and hunting, have you had your own version of loving the outdoors that has nothing to do with fishing and hunting?
Yeah, hiking.
Yeah.
Hiking and going by myself on just backpacking by myself, going on overnight trips.
You're a big runner too.
Yes, I love that's it's so boring to most people, but that's what I love most in life is just running.
Right.
Which is weird, honestly, but it's something that I love with all my heart. So I've always been outside doing stuff. And yeah, like I said, before moving here, I would just hike all the time. And that was a big thing, a big issue with me and my wife before we were married. Cause I was like, we need to be outdoors all the time. And she, if you ever have her on this podcast, even though don't know why you would, because she does not enjoy the outdoors as much as I do, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And I love you.
Yeah. Let's talk about your first year when I started taking you out, and I got to be honest, the reason I wanted to take Levi out is for my own selfish gain. Levi's in incredible shape. He can run really far, great cardio.
Sure.
So in my mind, I'm thinking, if I get you to the point where you can go by yourself, you'll find deer and you'll show me them. You'll find the deer that I can't find. 2 heads in the mountains are better than 1.
You see, that's where you messed up, because it's taken me about 4 years to be able to spot deer myself.
That's true. That's
so true. This is like the first year where I've been, the 7 days I went where I was confident. I'm like, oh, there's one. Right. But before then, I'm just like, Tyler's going to see it. It's
right.
Yeah.
So to put it into perspective, you are still a beginner in this.
Oh, 100%. I'm an
but we still have some good stories to tell. And that's what this is all about.
Stories. Absolutely. I'm a beginner. I'm still new. Like this was my 4th year. And I've been successful 1 time.
Right. On the last day of the season last year.
Last day of the season, November 30th. Got really lucky. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah, totally true.
But also I invested in a very good rifle that shot true with 1 shot. So I was thankful for that.
Right.
But
yeah, we had the first few years of Levi and I hunting, I have to say, have been the least. It's always good. It's always better to be lucky than talented. That's what I think.
I agree.
The 4 years that I hunted with you have been the least lucky years of my life. Everything has come from super hard work.
Totally.
And so, yeah, tell one of the stories of the first time you took a shot at an animal.
Oh, that was brutal.
And I say took a shot because you know where this is going.
Yeah, absolutely. No, Tyler had guided me into this area, and I had a shot at a buck, probably at 250 yards, I would say. It was first time shooting at an animal. So I was like, just fired up. And so,
and you want me to paint the picture real quick?
Please do. Yeah, please do. Go ahead.
Okay. We had, was this evening or morning?
Evening.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
We had hiked up where I had been seeing these deer crossing on this ridge line. And I knew that they're either going to be on the ridge line that we're on or they're going to be on the next one, hoping that they're on the next one. We hike straight up this mountain. And I got to be honest, it's not a very far hike, which is great.
It's easy. Yeah, it's very simple.
You hike straight up this mountain. It's probably, I would say you're going maybe 1,000 yards up the mountain or less. You hike up and you're sitting on this ridge waiting in the evening for the deer to come out. The deer were actually on our ridge at first.
Yeah, I remember that.
And so I start seeing them funneling through and I'm like, get down, get on your bipod. Cause he's new. So I'm trying to get you prepared.
No, absolutely.
And so you jump down your bipod and these doe are jumping into this open gap. And I kept saying, I'll tell you when to shoot, knowing that they're jumping through this gap.
Yeah.
And it was doe after doe after doe after doe. No bucks. I'm like, okay, great. We're going to wait on this face where the deer usually come out. And I know that these does are going to head towards this face on this other ridge that are like 200 yards away. My thought process is the wind is blowing uphill and usually the big bucks are above where these doe are. Maybe they'll smell it and come down.
Sure.
So take it from here.
All that to say, Tyler was right. And eventually a buck did pop out. It was 4 years ago. I don't remember the size. A decent one.
He was a decent buck. I think
buck.
he was a big framed 3x3.
Cool. Awesome. At that
he
point,
didn't care.
At that point, it didn't matter.
You still don't care.
I was like, no, not at all. not even a
As a matter of
bit.
fact, you said you can have the horns if I shoot one,
Yeah,
which is
absolutely.
Honestly, that's a great mentality.
I love what I learned when I moved here pretty quickly is that I love wild game. Like Tyler, you're a great chef and you would prepare these things for me. And I was like, oh, I need some of this, bro. I can't keep mooching off my buddy. Although, can I have some deer this year?
Yeah, totally.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. I helped him process.
Are you running out of elk?
No, I still got elk.
Okay,
if you want elk, let me know.
Okay, we'll switch.
Right, cool.
We'll swap.
Sounds good. But anyways, I had this shot lined up perfectly. I'm on my bipod. Tyler's like, let me know when I can make a noise. And I was like, all right, do it. And he goes, meh. And as soon as he does that, I was like, the deer stopped. I didn't even wait more than a second, and I shot. I shot with I'm kind of a smaller guy. I shot with a 30-06, and I'm a weenie, and so it kicks back real good. And so like I took a shot, and then I couldn't really see anything. I was like, "What happened?" And you're like, "I think you hit it." And I was like, "What? And you're like, "I don't know." Like he took off. Like he was on that ridge. He took off around the ridge.
And for hunters who just to paint the shot, the deer jumped straight up with its front legs, back legs still on the ground. Front legs went up and then came down. Usually with a hit, you see the deer kind of jump straight up like that. And a gut shot, you'll often see it lurch forward or lurch down and kind of hunker down and slowly move. It didn't do any of that. So I thought it must have been a good shot, the way he jumped up. But I don't know. I thought maybe it was a shot through the ribs.
Okay, gotcha. So anyways, you said, hey, go check it out. I'm going to stay here and see if I can see anything. I'm running around. The whole time I'm like, please, God, please, God, please, God. Like literally, like, I will do anything. I will give you my firstborn no matter what. Like I just wanted that deer. I went around, looked around, couldn't find it. Couldn't find blood. Then you came around. We were looking. It started to get dark. And then you're like, I found blood. And it was like a couple baby little specks on this rock. We then spent the next few hours into the evening looking around for the deer. And I will say, though, we never found the deer. But about, what do you say, half an hour, an hour?
So I would say after you shot,
yeah,
it was less than a half an hour that we were hearing gunshots. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were hearing gunshots on the other side of the ridge.
From where we thought the deer had run.
Yes. So and there's deer all over the place, so there's gunshots happening. I didn't even think about it until we're at night looking around for this deer.
Sure. And it was the only time that I hoped that a road hunter was successful.
Well, we went around the ridge and looked down, and we actually saw guys at the bottom of the canyon with flashlights. And I still didn't think about it. I still thought this deer's got to be here somewhere, but maybe it was a gut shot. The blood was red, but it wasn't bubbling, so I immediately knew it wasn't a lung shot. But I was hoping for maybe back liver. Turns out what I think it was is he just nicked the bottom and scared the crap out of that deer.
Yeah.
But I do think other hunters shot it from a dirt road that we scared this thing from, 8,500 feet, probably down to 6,000 feet. And I think they shot it from the road.
Sure.
I'm almost positive because we went back the next morning and we looked, I don't know, for a long time.
Yeah, I took work off and I was like, maybe it's dead down there. And it was cold that evening. So I was hoping that, maybe we could find it, but no, it was no luck. You're a great friend for going out there with me. And like I said, I hope a road hunter got it. But if you're a road hunter, get out of here, bro. All right. If you're not hiking for your meat, go home.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of blood, I think we maybe found 8 specks total, and it was across probably 100 yards.
It wasn't. And that was my first experience. So I didn't know like what a blood, but now that I've been around
You've
people.
seen blood.
Yes. And I'm like, oh yeah, that was nothing. Like you were being really nice to me.
Yeah. Well, sometimes, I mean, you never know. Like sometimes there are those situations, especially with elk, where you'll shoot perfect and either fat or fur or something plugs those holes. The bullet didn't like expand. It just went right through. And there are those times where you'll see blood like that, but rarely. Most of the time, if you hit it where you need to hit it, you're going to see a river of blood. But like I said, I've had those circumstances. The elk that I shot with my rifle, I hit it and it was in snow, standing in snow.
Yeah.
I hit it twice. And by the time I walked up to it, all I could see were tracks, and the tracks led away, and I saw no blood in the snow.
Oh,
and
really?
I was like, I missed.
Oh.
Like, how did I miss? I have no idea how I missed. And so I was walking around following these tracks, but kind of just thinking I would see the blood in the snow. There's no way that I hit this thing.
Yeah, especially in snow.
And then I started even hunting. This is a huge mistake. I even started hunting for deer because I was like, oh, there's a buck over there. I started like going for the buck because I thought I missed the elk. And then I luckily heard something in the trees below me, and it was the elk had probably just fallen over and was dying and thrashing and kicking the trees. And so I was able to go down there and finish it off. But when I opened it up, two bullet holes right through the lungs.
Nice.
It just must have plugged with fat. So that can happen for hunters out there who are like, oh, I must have missed. I just see a little drop of blood. No, you check it out. And you that's what we did.
Do your due diligence is what you're saying.
We're due diligence.
Yes, exactly. Yes. But yeah,
so that was your first shot at a deer.
That was my first shot at a deer. My second shot at the deer.
And this is year 2.
Year 2, second shot at a deer. I actually have a scar right there. If you want to zoom in there, Kai, young Kai, I have a scar right there permanently reminding me that I was just an idiot. And also something really, really bad happened to me.
Yeah.
So this was the second year we were in one of our favorite spots and we walk up. And for the first time ever, I was the first one to spot things.
Yep.
I was, glass, and I was like, there they are. And you're like, dude, go get them. I was like, this is the day. And I was just stoked. I was like, oh, I got this. Simple. Hiked down this ridge, hiked up another ridge, trying to get close to him. When I finally crept up on him, I was probably only 350 yards away, which I'm not a great shot. And with the rifle I had at that time, I was even less of a great shot.
Right.
But I was still like, I'm totally taking the shot.
He was excited. Folks.
I was very excited. So I got down on my gun. I laid my gun on my pack. I was shooting at an upward angle. And I started going, meh, because I was like, that's what Tyler does, like to get him to like stop and look.
Right.
And so I was going, man, he could hear me from where he's at. And I was just screaming, man. And then I shot, and my gun, even though Charles says it did misfired. Okay.
Charles is a mutual friend who is a gunsmith.
And he's the one who worked on my, scope. He's great. But what I'm telling you is I still have the bullet, Charles. Okay. And you can see the little where it got tapped, Charles, and it didn't fire. So, bullet, gun, whatever, it misfired. The deer go even further away. I am livid. I'm like, no, what do I do? And they were probably about 500 yards. And me personally, I shouldn't have taken that shot, but I was like,
he took a good ridden shot.
Yeah, literally. I was like, please God. Okay, here we go. And I shot it, and I was at such an angle that the gun just shot back like over my shoulder, and the scope just destroyed my eye. Kai, zoom in on this, bro. And then so I was dejected. I was like, my life sucks. I walk up. It probably took me a half an hour to get to you.
Yep.
I walk up, and I'm just muttering obscenities.
So from my perspective.
Yeah, please, share.
From my perspective, I see struggling. Like I see struggling at the beginning when that first bullet didn't go off.
Yeah.
Was it first bullet didn't go off. And I see the frustration happening. I see the inner cursing, the inner turmoil. And I'm in my head, I'm going, what is going on? Like, what's taking him so long? I can hear him even going, meh, but no shots are happening.
Yeah,
and then the deer go up and he takes this crazy, weird shot that I can see that it didn't hit. The buck was totally fine.
Totally.
And the craziest thing happened. He was so mad that he turned around and started walking down the ravine. And I'm trying to get his attention because the buck and the does ran up and over the ridge, and something spooked them up and over the ridge, and they ran back down to almost where Levi was standing.
Yeah, and I had no idea because I was just livid looking down at my feet, just like because I had to go down and go back up again,
right?
And I wasn't. It's not like he could just start screaming at me. Like you couldn't, Levi! Like that just ruined it.
There's a lesson there somewhere.
Somewhere. I don't know.
I don't know what it is.
I don't know.
Someone else can tell us what that lesson is,
man.
Because I've never seen anything like that. You would have had 100-yard shot if you just wouldn't have been frustrated.
The lesson is if your gun or bullet misfires, just go home and you won't get a scar above your eye.
Or the real lesson is buy a decent gun. Don't go to the pawn shop and buy a used rifle. There's a reason that they sold that rifle.
There was a reason. Absolutely. And I understood.
And that wasn't the only problem you had with that rifle.
No, I had so many.
Oh, I forgot to mention on the first deer of why that was a miss.
This is actually good.
We're going to go back to the first deer.
To the first
This is a great learning lesson.
Rewind. So the next, it was probably 2 days after we went to the range, and you're like, dude, we got to get you locked in. I was like, okay. So we started at 100 yards. I was shooting all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, you're an idiot. And I was like, yeah, I know, but like, help me. And you're like, fine. Here, this is how it's done. And you're like, you shot a couple times, and they were kind of all over the place. And you're like,
well, they weren't hitting center.
Yes, they weren't hitting center.
They were hitting low. This is how we found out that you must have nicked the bottom of that deer. Yeah. Because what had happened, and this is a great learning lesson for beginner hunters.
Yes.
You were shooting. Oh, people are going to think you're the biggest idiot.
It's fine.
You're not an idiot.
I'm fine. No, it's fine.
This is your first year hunting.
No, it's totally fine. It's fine.
He was shooting with one caliber of bullet when he was in practice. But they didn't have that grain.
Yes, so I switched.
I'm sorry, it wasn't a different caliber.
No,
different grain of bullet.
Yes.
Your gun would have blown up.
That would have been bad.
He was shooting with what were you shooting? I think 150s. People are going to correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know what 30
and it was
a different grain of bullet.
I was really cheap, and this is when like we had only been here a little bit, and I was still just cheap about like hunting and fishing stuff. And I was getting like federal ammunition, like the cheapest kind that you can get. And I practiced with one. They were out of it, and I was like, oh, whatever. Like I'll just get this one instead,
without looking at the grains or anything.
Yes.
And that's how we discovered. This grain of bullet was shooting probably 6 inches low at 200 and definitely low at even 100.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
No.
It wasn't good at all.
No, but at least it explained like it wasn't just you on that.
Sure, it made me feel better.
Even your intelligence
level,
but
I blame you as my sensei, okay?
I told you.
You weren't there for me.
I told you. I know I did.
You probably did.
I said, make sure you're shooting with the exact same bullet that you're shooting with at practice.
I know, and I'm so good at lip service. I'm just like, yeah, totally, yeah, it's all good,
Hey, you realize that?
Yeah, I 100% do. And I view myself. All of my life, I've been very blessed, fortunate, lucky in like all of my endeavors.
Right.
Literally, like I just have like favor. And then I started hunting and fishing with you, and I was like, wait a minute. I was like, this, like I thought it'd be easier, man. Not the hunting, like the hunting.
You thought you would have that same favor that you have in your normal life with hunting and fishing.
Yeah.
And that's not been true.
Yeah, and I know a couple schmucks that have like gotten some deer that we both know, and I'm like, if this schmuck can do it, this guy can. Bow!
Right.
But that was not the case, and it has caused me to, over the years, take things more seriously, invest in better gear, and spend a lot of money on a really good rifle.
Sure.
So, which sucks even more that this vaccine stuff happened this year, because during these 7 days, I had some of the most fun I've ever had.
Yeah.
Hunting, because I was confident in my rifle. I was confident in myself, and I was just seeing things everywhere.
Right.
Just chasing it. It was so much fun, but it just, wasn't in the cards for me this year.
Right.
I guess. Yeah.
So then, I don't know if this was a second year or third year, but in the same spot, I think this spot could just be really unlucky.
No, you got one there.
I did. Oh, I did. I broke it. I broke.
It was the second year that the story were.
Yes. Okay. So second year. So the same year that you had wounded your eye, right?
Yeah. That was the same year. Yeah.
Same year. We go back to the same spot, and there's a even bigger buck, pretty much in the same area as where he had shot at that first buck. And because I took him and I spotted it this time, I was like, okay, I'm shooting this one.
Totally. And I was stoked. I was like, oh, he's getting this.
And this is a ridiculous story. This doesn't happen. People talk about it all the time. It doesn't happen, but apparently it totally does. We run down the mountain and we're getting ready to go up, but the deer is meeting us down in the bottom of the ravine. So we can't go up. So we end up hiking the bottom of this ravine. And the deer was up on the face and it started coming down towards us. we're in like shale ravine. So it's really hard to not be noisy, but there's a bunch of doe with them. There's a bunch of doe with this buck. So
it's a big herd.
Yeah.
Like a fairly large herd.
I'm thinking, they're making noise. Maybe they won't hear us. Mm-hmm. We go down this ravine to get a shot, and I have a good shot, but I have no rest. Literally, this is going to sound so redneck. Literally, I'm like, Levi, bend over. And I got my bipod on his shoulders. That's how high up this deer was compared to me, but it was only 200 yards.
So basically, I tabletop, not just bent over, okay? I tabletopped. Okay, let's be specific about this. I tabletopped, and I just have like my ears plugged because his bipod's on top.
I'm on top of him like this.
And I'm like,
right. Don't move. Hold your breath. Yeah. Don't move. And
I'm like, I think I get more meat because of this. I think I do.
You would have. Yeah. You would have. And so while I'm trying to figure out this shooting angle, and obviously I'm not going to take a shot unless I feel like it's perfectly still.
No, you are nothing if you're not an ethical hunter.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah. I wasn't going to take the shot if I couldn't get a good shot, but it was ridiculous the positions we were getting in to try.
For sure, man.
It was like a Kama Sutra book trying to figure out how to get this shot off. But I couldn't get a good shot. It kind of went over the ridge, but we knew that it was in this spot that it should pop out in front of us. So we get lined up and get ready for it to pop up. And we're sitting there and waiting. The sun's going down, and I know it's supposed to pop out in this area. So we just keep waiting, and I start seeing the does popping out. I'm like, okay, here are the does. Where is this buck? Don't see the buck anywhere. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, boom!
And hold on, this was if not, it was like the last minute.
Yes,
where you could legally shoot.
Like we were getting ready to pack up because we were like, it must not.
And
be.
I have terrible night vision anyway, so like even a half an hour before, I was like, I don't know.
I'll take a shot a minute before. I don't care.
Yeah, totally. You can see.
Yeah. But I couldn't see this buck. All I could see were the does, and I thought, I'll just come back here tomorrow morning. He'll still be here. And then out of nowhere, boom! Yep. And then all of a sudden the buck pops out from right where I thought it was going to be, pops out. It must have been 10 yards out of my sight.
Yeah, it was right there.
Yeah.
And wasn't there a second shot too?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Boom! Shoots. And we see this deer hobbling because the guy made a bad shot. Yeah. Shot from the road, had to have been like a 750-yard shot. No, maybe 600 yard shot.
Well, no, I thought...
And it was a kid.
I was pretty sure they were on the other ridge, weren't they?
No. Well, we
saw them hike. Oh, yeah.
They had hiked up
from the road,
but it was from the road. They maybe hiked up from a main road. They maybe hiked up 200 yards.
We were right by that road.
Yes. Yeah. And they wounded it, and then we get to be blessed to watch these people walk up and get this deer, shoot it again a couple more times, I think. Sure. There was this deer that was right in front of us, really decent buck. And so that's when I looked at you and I was like, this is your fault.
Yeah, no, literally.
I don't experience this type of bad luck. Totally. I put in the work to get these animals, and now your bad luck is ruining this. And to keep in mind, for those of you who are like, you shouldn't have been hiking around a road. We were not around a road when we first got up on this ridge.
Followed them down.
We had hiked way up on this ridge to get away from the roads, and we had slowly been going down this ravine towards a main road because we were looking at this deer on the face and following it, trying to get a good shot. And it happened to pop out in the evening where someone could shoot it from the road.
Totally.
That's horrible luck. That does not happen to me. It happens to you.
Yeah, I suppose it does. I've had bad luck.
So this was the first circumstance where your bad luck rubbed off onto me.
Oh, is that how it went?
Yes.
Okay.
And then the year after, we had the worst luck of my entire life.
Totally. And I think it was so bad that you made your own bad luck. But
it could have been. I started generating bad luck from this. It was... So this next story is a story that you hear about it, but you don't ever believe it. And we have the proof here today. So Levi, I'm going to let you start this story from your perspective because all I feel is anger on the inside.
I understand it. It's been a couple of years, but I can understand.
We've broken this bad luck, so it's kind of behind us, but it's really not.
Well, no, you were successful this year.
This year, I was successful this year. The bad luck's been broken.
Totally.
But I still have animosity towards this situation and this story.
It's completely understandable. So to paint the picture, we're going out for an early morning hike. I think it was like a Saturday morning.
I'm going to sound like such an idiot with this.
No, you're okay, buddy. You're okay. But it's pretty bad.
It's pretty bad. I would like to preface this. I have not made a bad shot on an animal since I was probably 14, 15 years old until this story. Continue.
So early morning, we're going out one of our favorite spots. It's a beautiful area. Going out there early in the morning. The wolves are howling all around us. Mm-hmm. Tyler's walking in front of me because I want the wolves to eat him first. That's kind of how it goes. And so I think we've been hiking and just glassing for about 3 to 4 hours when all of a sudden you spot something. And I can't remember if this buck was bedded down or not.
It was moving. It was moving up through the trees. We were too far for a shot. We were like 700 yards.
Yeah.
But it was moving into this patch of trees. And so we were trying to get in front of it.
Sure.
And then when we spotted that doe that was bedded down.
Yes.
So we knew it had to have been heading towards that doe.
So we spot those doe, and Tyler spotted the buck as well. And so we kind of move up this ridge to get into position. And I would say at the ridge where you set up, 350 yards, 300 yards?
Yeah, maybe closer. Maybe. I think you're giving me the benefit of the doubt. I think it was like 275.
All right, let's say 3. Oh. Okay, let's say 3.
Okay, 300.
Let's say 3. And so we see the doe. You know, they're coming out. They're feeding a little. Some are going back and bending down. Mm-hmm. At this point, I think it's like 11 or 10 or 11. And you got a chance to really set up. Like, you got comfy.
We probably had 45 minutes of us watching these doe bedded down, knowing that a buck is coming towards them in the forest.
Yeah.
And knowing that he's going to pop out in this open gap.
Yeah, you got cozy.
I got cozy. I got rocks laid out in front of me. Yes. I got rocks underneath my shoulder. Yes. I got my tripod set up. I only needed to pull the trigger.
Totally. And so I'm excited because the whole time you're like, I've never had this great of light before. Yeah. And I was like, shoot, man, this is awesome. I was like, this is going to be sick. I was also like, damn, man, we're pretty far out here, but whatever, it'll be fine. Whatever, it'll be fun.
It would have been a tough pack.
For sure.
It ended up being the easiest pack.
Don't ruin the story, Tyler.
Sorry.
So anyways, after, you would set up for 45 minutes. I'm right behind you with my binoculars, just looking. And then you see this buck, decent size, pop out. Mm-hmm. And you're like, okay, man, I'm going to shoot. And I'm like, hell yeah, bro. I'm just like, all right, let's do this. Mm-hmm. And I hear, you have to correct me. I don't know if I remember. I hear one shot. And
So one shot I missed.
Yes, missed
completely missed.
Yes.
And I even looked at you and was like, what? What is going on?
And I was kept looking. The deer stayed there. The buck stayed there. He didn't move. And I was like, all right, cool. And you're like, all right. So you reload. Mm-hmm. You do it again. And then we hear
boom, the perfect boom
you
impact.
Hear this would have been my first time actually hearing a bullet hit a deer.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, of course that hit the deer.
Yeah.
Of course.
Right.
And I was
it's a sound that cannot be replicated. Yeah. It's a hollow sound.
But I was just still looking, and I was like, wait, something doesn't seem right. And then you go to reload again, you're like, because you think 100%, you're like, I got done. That deer. And then
he fell so hard. He smashed to the ground. Yeah. I thought, this is a done deer.
And then you look at me and you're like, bro, Levi. You're like, there's another deer. And I was like, huh? And you're like, but this deer only has one antler. And I'm right behind you, and I'm just peeping, and I'm like, hey, Tyler, I think that's your deer. So
in my mind, I'm thinking, maybe, but either way, you have to shoot it because I don't know if it's my deer.
Yeah.
I can't shoot a second deer in case it's not my deer.
Totally.
So you need to shoot it so I can piece together this deer when I get to it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was even upset because I was like, you should have shot that buck. You should have, because I was thinking in my head, there's no way that that's not my buck.
Yeah.
Or there's no way that that is my buck. And I killed my buck.
And when we're hunting, like I'm always like, you're right. Cause you're the professional.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, I have nothing set up. Like there was one buck. Like this was yours. I was like, that's your buck, man.
I thought this buck just jumped out of nowhere. I thought there was a brand new buck. We did have a ton of deer that popped out of nowhere after the shot. Totally. They all of a sudden emerged on the hill.
Totally. They were hiding in the trees and the bushes to the left.
And so I thought, this is another buck, and he's just as big as the one I shot.
Just as big. And
we
so
could have two giant
grab
bucks.
Your stuff. You're like, stay here. Like, guide me to the spot. And I was like, all right. So you left. I had to take a poop. So I took a poop. But I forgot toilet paper. So I had to cut open some of my game sacks and wipe my game sacks. So,
good thing we didn't shoot 2 deer.
Exactly. No. Just one game sack, man. I might have not wiped great. But that happens when you're hunting. Yeah. Okay. So you get down there. And then I get the phone call. You're like, yeah. I shot his antler off. And I was like, yeah, dude, I know you did.
And this is the antler.
Voila!
This is the antler, folks. Such a cool buck, too. He's got that extra tine coming out. And he was perfectly even on both sides. It's such a bummer. But yeah, shot right at the base. Yeah. I followed this buck's blood trail for a long time because he had a tiny, when you shoot an antler off, they still got blood vessels coming up through the antler.
You started following the blood trail. I caught up with you maybe an hour later, and then we kept searching for I think 2 more hours until I just whined enough to be like, dude, we lost the blood trail. It's 2 feet of snow. Let's go. And you're like, we will be out here forever. And I was like, no, dude. Like when you get something in your head, you're going to do it. And I'm just like, bro, like this isn't happening today, man.
I mean, this buck, I've never seen a deer go down so fast, and I should have known.
Sure,
I should have known that deer don't go down like that. And it even it flopped to the side. Like if you hit a deer through the heart, sometimes they go boom, straight down.
Sure,
this deer flopped to the side, and I thought, oh man, that deer is done.
I really killed that guy. Yeah,
and totally. I know now I hit the antler and it knocked it unconscious probably for a second.
Talk about like such a well-placed shot.
Oh yeah.
Right at the base?
Yeah. What a bummer would have been if I didn't get some of this base.
Yeah, exactly, man. Like
that's why this is the easiest pack out of our lives.
Yeah, it was 100%. No, I still have, I have like photos of you holding this up.
It kills me, man. It kills me.
I know it still kills you. To this
day. I still think about it right now, and I still think I should be going after that buck still.
I know.
I should still be in the mountains chasing that blood trail.
Yes.
And when we say blood trail, this thing is not wounded. It is totally fine. This was a drop. This is very deep snow, and this is a drop of blood every 100 yards. I could find a drop of blood because I was able to follow his tracks in the snow. He separated from the herd. I could follow his tracks and just see this one little dot of blood trail every once in a while.
I followed your tracks, and then I'd be like, oh wow, like he's tracking this thing really good because there wasn't that much blood, and obviously the further we went, the less and less, and then it was all gone.
We found out what happened later. As I was hiking, and I still don't know how this happens, but it happened. My turret on my scope, which I'm not used to having a turret on my scope.
Oh, yeah.
Slowly had been spinning, and I had adjusted it. I had grabbed it and spun it back to 0. And I think I needed to do an entire another revolution around back to 0. I thought there's no way it would have spun that far. And I just moved it to close to 0 and then got really comfy getting ready to shoot.
You don't normally mess with that, correct?
No.
In the past.
So, okay, I have a buddy of mine who is a long distance shooter.
Yes.
And that's what
he sold me my gun.
Yeah, exactly. And he thrives on the long distance shooting.
Totally.
I have never had a scope that I needed to adjust anything. I know that I'm shooting within 500 yards at the very most, and I know where my mil dots need to go on this.
Sure.
I had so much time to think about the shot placement on this that I was sitting there dinking around with it, adjusting it just to what I thought it should be. And so I actually adjusted it too high, even though it was an entire revolution around. So it was shooting feet above where it was supposed to be shooting, and I didn't know it. And I had all this time to set up and make a horrible shot.
Yeah.
So the first shot right over its back. And the second shot, I was like, maybe I need to aim a little higher, and shot again, and then shot its antler off.
All that to say, it's something that haunts you to this day.
it's brutal, man.
I know, but
Brutal.
it's still a spectacular memory for me.
Yeah.
I was.
It's not a good memory for me.
I know, but it's just like, yeah, but it was still a good memory.
Yeah.
Nonetheless.
Well, I'm glad we get to tell the story.
No, it's good because we've told this story to numerous people, and
Now I don't have to tell it anymore. I can just send this video out.
Yeah, you just send this podcast
Like,
out.
here, if you want the story,
Yes.
you can watch me in pain tell it on this podcast.
Yeah, but since then, you've been successful.
Yeah, we finally broke the curse last year.
Last year, at that same spot where I got my scar and Tyler stuck his bipod on me.
Yep.
Tyler got it's a good buck, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a 3x3.
Okay,
It was a good buck for 4 days left in the season,
Totally.
and thinking that we were going to have bad luck for the rest of our lives.
Was it only 4 days left in the season for that?
Yep. And then you had that same year. This was last year.
Yeah, last year.
You had a cow elk tag that extended all the way to November 30th.
Yeah.
And
very
I'll tell your
please
story.
do.
I'll start this.
Please do.
I'll start this because from
I'll
my
be my
perspective,
guest.
this is pretty funny. So we elk in this particular unit that we hunt have resident elk that stay in one spot pretty much the entire winter. They roam, a few miles here and there, but they're pretty much in one canyon, and they stay and hang out there. Then you have your migrating elk, and they move in massive herds out of these areas and go down into the desert. Where we're hunting, by this point, you're pretty much hunting the resident elk. All the big herds have moved out, which makes it difficult to find. It makes it difficult to find just random herds. Mm-hmm. So we have been going out continually out these different canyons trying to find these elk, and have not been successful, have not even seen any. And then the last day.
That was the difficult part of the season, though.
Yeah.
It was like, because when I got that tag, you're like, oh, dude, they're everywhere. And I was like, all right, cool.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd go out all the time. Me and you were just me.
Yep.
I'm like, dude, I'm not seeing anything, man.
Right.
And I was like, I really just want to get something, man.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to get something. But yeah, it was, I didn't understand. I was like, they weren't anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
So the last day in the evening, I tell them, like, we're driving out here. I bet you anything there's going to be elk at the top of this ridge. Because usually this time of year, they start popping out on the top of this ridge.
And I was about to have something difficult happen in my life a little bit. And I was like, dude, I'm done, man. Like, this will be 3 years in a row, skunked, burned. You're right. I'm unlucky. Whatever. I hope we can still be friends. Yeah. And so he picked me up, and I was like, yeah, we're just going to go drive out this place. Like, right. And so I had sweats.
He was not prepared.
No, I had.
Let me tell this part.
Yeah, go for it. Sorry.
Because I know this, because I didn't know you didn't pack things. Like, I didn't know you weren't prepared. Okay. And so we park, and I look up and I'm like, there's elk. Yeah. So we're going up there. And you're like, we're going up there? And I'm like, yeah. And I think in your mind, you were done, but you're like, I will appease Tyler and go this last
totally.
one. And so I look up and go, there's elk. We're going up there. And so I get out of the car, I'm putting on my stuff, and you're moving like so slow.
Totally.
Like
sluggish.
You're grabbing stuff, but not really very fast. And I get on my pack frame. I'm not carrying a gun. He's the one shooting. So I get my pack frame on, get my gloves, my hat. I know it's going to be cold. It's already like 20 degrees.
There's like a good, at that point where I shot the elk, probably a foot of snow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Foot of snow at least.
Yeah.
And I look over at you, and I'm just thinking you're moving slow, and you look at me, and I'm like, are you going to get ready? And you're like, I am ready.
Bro, I just had sweats on.
This dude's wearing a sweatpants and not hiking boots.
Chelsea boots.
Chelsea. His wife's boots. I don't even. Did they even lace up?
No, slip-on Timberland Chelsea boots, bro.
And we're hiking up a mountain like this.
Really
it is steep as shit. And we're hiking straight up this thing, and half of it is like open face because the sun's melted the snow, and then the other half is snow. And we're hiking straight up this, and I knew that I couldn't, like, he's going to have to book it in front of me. So I'm like, oh my gosh.
You said, you're like, hey, go. And I was like, I looked at him and I was like, all right, I think I can get there.
Yeah.
Like, I think I can run up there fast enough.
Yeah. And the elk, when we originally started, were at the very top. normally it takes me about an hour to get to this spot. We needed to get up there in like 30 minutes. So I was like, just go. I'll meet you up there since he's a better hiker than me.
Sure.
So he's blasting up this thing. And luckily, some of these elk started popping up a little bit lower. So he was able, and closer, way closer than we thought they were going to be. So you had a shot probably 300 yards.
It was. I still remember because I scoped it. 317.
317.
Yeah, I still remember because that's the only thing I've ever killed. 317. Yeah.
You had a moment. Tell us about the moment.
It was so. Yeah, I booked it up there, and then I think, do we have cell phone service? I talked to you at
one point. We talked because I needed to give you the rangefinder.
Yes, that's what it was.
So I was whistling at you.
Yes, you were whistling at me. I came down, grabbed the rangefinder, went back up, got relatively comfortable, and I was like, I just felt peaceful. I was like, it's the last day. I'm glad to even be close to these animals.
Right.
Like I haven't seen anything all freaking year. And I was like, all right, like I'm going for that one.
Yep.
There it is. I had a new rifle that year. I completely forgot ear protection.
Said a little prayer.
Absolutely. I was like, but it wasn't like, please. I was like, God, whatever. It's cool. Literally, I was like, hey man, like
whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I was like, it's cool.
Yeah.
Took a shot, saw it hit. I was shocked. I kind of looked at Tyler and he's like, yeah, I looked at you and you're like, whoa. And then I was like, well, and it was stumbling. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I guess take another shot. Completely missed the second shot. But thankfully, like that was one shot. I think I hit it like right at the base of the neck.
Right. Which
it's me.
Who cares? First animal, no meat ruined.
None.
It literally got it right in the jugular.
Yes. And then I stayed
and
at that
this thing
spot.
took maybe 10 steps.
Yeah. And then it fell, starts sliding down. Tyler gets up to me and I'm still kind of shaking. And I was like, dude, did I do it? I asked you.
And
like
even
I
was in disbelief.
I know. And you're like,
I think so.
You're like, I think you did. And you're like, but put one in the chamber, like it might not be dead. And so we walk up.
We had so much bad luck with your hunts that I could not conceptualize that this thing was down for the count. I just kept thinking,
oh, me too.
It's going to stand up and run away.
Yeah, me too.
It's not dead.
Yeah.
Even though its head was completely buried in the snow. There's no way this thing was even close to alive anymore.
I felt the same way.
I still kept thinking as we're walking up, it's going to take off and run, so be ready.
Yeah. And so I was like, if this thing moves, like I'm going to chase it down. I will slit its throat. This is my elk.
Yes.
But thankfully, it was
gone.
one shot kill. I was really thankful to be there with you. Finally, I was like, thank you.
Yes.
Like finally successful. Incredibly easy drag out because
we were able to drag for those of you who hunt elk, you'll know that this is insane. We were able to drag this thing out whole because it was such a steep elevation decline.
And with the snow.
And it was snowy. So it was pretty much just trying to not get run over the entire time.
Yeah.
But we were able to drag it directly to the vehicle. It took a long time. It took a few hours for us to get it down.
Totally. And as I'm thinking of this, that happened a year ago today.
Oh, yeah.
It's November 30th.
What?
It's been a year.
That's awesome.
Gotta wait till next year.
Right. That's awesome.
But
I didn't even think about that.
On that subject, do you want to hunt in Michigan with me next year?
Sure.
Okay. Cool.
I'm down.
Brother-in-law, they have a hunting cabin out there.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, I would do it.
Because their season
instantly.
doesn't start till November 15th.
We should just go this year.
Oh, like tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Well, it probably doesn't go November 15th to December. I bet you it goes like to the end of the year.
But anyways, we should go.
Yes.
And we have a place to stay. We just have to get there.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm totally down.
Cool. We're going to do that.
I've been wanting, it's whitetail, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I've been wanting to get into some good whitetail land. Where we're at, it's mule deer and elk and, coyotes, bobcats.
Totally.
Mountain lions, stuff like that.
Totally, but I think it'd be fun to hunt in a different state.
Totally.
Yeah.
I'd be all about it.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So that now I feel like is the beginning, even though it's taken this long. That's the beginning of you being like, oh, I'm a hunter. And then there's the whole butchering process.
Yes.
And that I think is where you, like most people fall in love with the hunting. I think you really fell in love with the meat.
It's so fun, man. And it was, my wife was like, I hope you feel really bad, like when you kill this thing. And I was like, no, like I honored the animal. I was really thankful that I was able to like provide meat for myself, my wife, my friends and things like that. But I was like, let's butcher this thing.
Yeah.
And because like the meat is so red, it is so pure, it is so lean. And the butchering process, which you helped with like a lot of it and showed me how to do it and stuff. It was fun.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's yours.
Right.
Like you killed this, you get to harvest it. And the butchering, it's like, look at all this burger. Look at all these steaks. Like,
Chelsea named the elk.
Yeah, Florence. Florence. So we still
Which
have.
I thought was going to be really weird. I was like, I get it, honoring the animal, but naming it. But now when I go in the freezer and I see Florence, I remember the entire hunting experience.
Exactly.
I remember the butchering process. I remember being there with friends and sitting down and actually showing them, this is how you cut this part. This is how you grind the meat.
You showed, I had a buddy come in from California who's originally from New York, who's like, he got to see the process. Turco was there that night.
Right.
Like Amory, your wife, was there through the whole thing and was amazing.
Yep. And even this year when I shot my deer, the first thing Chelsea says is, can we help you butcher your deer?
Yeah.
I'm like,
she's like, can we butcher and pack? And then what'd she name your deer? She named your deer, right?
Brutus.
Brutus, yeah. So every time you go in the freezer, you eat a little Brutus.
So now my packs don't say anything but like Florence and Brutus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but she was like, it's me and you butchering it and her and Amory just packaging it. And I don't know. It's just a fun like friend thing to do.
And with your elk, cow elk, a good sized cow elk, we got hundreds of pounds of meat off of this.
I still have.
And I think that was the recognizing like, holy shit, how much this is
100%.
all mine. How can I even eat all of this in a year?
Yeah, 100%. And I haven't. I've given away to my parents, friends. You still have whatever you want. I still have a fair amount. Like I think maybe there's like a steak or two left, but like it's mostly burger.
That's fine.
But yeah, and then when I helped you butcher your deer, I was like, oh, like there's like half the meat.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because I was like going over, I was like, we're gonna be
here
here 8 hours tonight, babe. And then we were done in like 3.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, cool.
Super quick with the deer.
Yeah. But still, deer still.
Well, and that's why like when you go to the Midwest, people are shooting multiple deer. Like they're shooting 2 or 3 a day sometimes.
Yeah, my brother-in-law's father already got 2 this year.
Yeah.
Already.
Yeah.
And he told me that when he was here a couple days ago, and so he's only been hunting for 10 days.
Yep.
It's already got 2.
Right.
And I was like, what? How many can you get?
Well, and I'll say that like with a mule deer, if you butcher it correctly and you eat the red meat the way that you would normally eat meat, you don't overindulge, like me and Amory can go through 1 mule deer each year. And we're just finishing it up right before the next hunting season.
Totally.
So an elk, definitely sharing with friends and family to get through it before the next year, which is also an awesome experience to just be able to cook wild game for friends and family who may have never had it. To me, that's part of the fun. It's just as fun. Well, it's not just as fun, but it's pretty fun.
Speaking of which, are you making us elk burgers tonight?
No.
Ah!
They're coming over to eat dinner.
Yeah.
Amory's making deer chili.
Oh, that's cool. I'm down with that.
Yeah, it's going to be delicious.
Yeah, it will be. Her chili's great.
As a matter of fact, your wife is probably at our house now. What time is it?
Young Kai?
Kai. Kai's our Jamie. Everyone will know what that means.
Yeah.
5:30?
Yeah. Oh, it's 5:30?
Yeah, that's not bad.
Right. It's an hour.
Yeah.
Right on.
Well, I think that's it. Have, so this is, we're going to keep Levi coming back. So that
I will be here bi-weekly because we want this to be more like JRE and not like a smooth jazz show of hunting. You know what I'm saying? We need some character, some charisma, some muscles, baby. And that's why
I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
I'm stacked and jacked, baby. Anyways, I'll be here.
Well, we definitely need you on the podcast because
Yeah.
we're not getting those reactions from other people. But no, like I want, so this was all about hunting. This is getting you up to the first animal, and I'm excited to recap when you get your next one.
Totally.
And we also have to have one all about our fishing experiences, because we haven't talked at all about those.
And also, let's do some coyote hunting this year.
Yeah.
And just do as much outdoor stuff as we can.
Heck yeah. Especially now that you might be feeling better someday.
Yeah, no, I like work's killing me, but I'm good. Especially if you go coyote hunting. Like I can go coyote hunting all day.
Right.
Like it's fine. Yeah, but definitely.
You don't have to hike very far for a coyote.
No.
So, I mean, we don't get very many either, so maybe you should be hiking farther.
No, yeah, lots of coyote hunting, fishing, and whatever else. You know, game, buddy.
Sweet.
All right. Thanks
cool,
for having
man.
me on, buddy.
Thanks.
All right.
Peace.
Later. That was perfectly synchronized. That was good.